They're in Babylon. The Babylonians came into Israel, into Judah,
That's all right. The wind
destroyed
keeps blowing it
Jerusalem,
all over the place.
and then they carried the people off to be slaves in
Sorry.
Babylon. And in Nehemiah chapter 1, Nehemiah is a slave. He's a slave in the king's palace. And here he writes in chapter 1, he said, Hanani, one of my brothers, came from Judah with some other men. And I questioned them about the Jewish remnant that had survived the exile. And I also asked them about Jerusalem. They said to me, those that survived the exile are back in the province, are in great trouble and disgrace. The walls of Jerusalem are broken down. Its gates have been burned with fire. When I heard these things, I sat down and wept. For some days I mourned and fasted and prayed before the God of heaven. Then I said, Lord, the God of heaven, the great and awesome God who keeps his covenants of love with those that love him and keep his commandments, let your ear be attentive and your eyes open to hear the prayer your servant is praying before you day and night for your servants, the people of Israel. I confess the sins we Israelites, including myself and my father's family, have committed against you. We've acted very wickedly toward you.
Yes, we have.
We've not obeyed
Yes, you have.
your commands, nor your decrees, and the laws that you gave to your servant Moses. God heard Nehemiah's prayers. Now Nehemiah is a slave in the king's palace, but God gave him favor. And ladies and gentlemen, we need God's favor today.
Yes.
In 52 days after Nehemiah arrived in Jerusalem, the king gave him letters, gave him authority, and gave him permission to go back to Jerusalem and rebuild that city. Now, there was a lot of opposition. There was a lot of threats from people. But he had God's favor.
Yes.
And let me tell you, when God's people have God's favor, you better watch out. Nehemiah goes back with God's favor.
Amen.
And in 52 days after returning to Jerusalem, in 52 days he rebuilt those walls. He rehung those gates. And people say, Franklin, it's too late for America. Oh, really?
No, it's not. No.
Really? When God's people come and God's people pray, let me tell you something, mountains can be moved. God gave him favor.
Yes.
Now the moral and political walls of our nation are crumbling. Walls are meant for protection, to keep bad people out. Gates can be open, and when threats come, gates can be closed. Our moral walls and gates are down, and any type of wicked thought and teaching and activity can come and go. And our guardians, our educators, big business, politicians, and sadly many churches are more concerned about profits, political correctness than they are about God's truth and his righteousness.
That's true. That's true. That's right.
Let's look what Nehemiah did. He fasted, he prayed. And his prayer was to confess the sins of his people, of himself, and of his father's family. The most important thing that we can do here today, ladies and gentlemen, is to pray. And what I'd like to ask you to do is just grab the hand of the person next to you, maybe a total stranger.